Madam Speaker, here is a summary of what I'm going to state. Our economy is faced with a number of challenges. Growth has been sluggish, fiscal deficits have been persistently high, and debt is unsustainable. Inflation is in double digits. The exchange rate has been volatile, and interest rates have remained high. The combination of these challenges have brought about sufferings among the people, hence the decision they took to change government. This administration, Madam Speaker, stands by its campaign promises to reverse the sufferings and improve the lives of the people. It is impossible to move away from the promises because then it would have been purposeless to seek to govern this great republic. I start my remarks by saying something about the growth of the economy as measured by the changes in the GDP, or gross domestic product, from year to year. This is one of the critical measures of the economy, and it provides a quick view of the tempo of the economy. It is one of those measurements of the economy which is akin to that of a farmer measuring the yield in his farm in a particular year. It is desirable that an economy must grow at all times. In simple terms, this means that the production of goods and services must increase from one period to the next. In practical terms, farming produce must be higher than it was in the previous period. The same must happen in other goods and services, such as mining output, manufacturing, tourism, and so on and so forth. It is this expansion in the production that increases the number of jobs, creates other business opportunities, generates money in the economy, and increases the taxes paid so that our government can spend more to support education and other social services. Over the decade up to 2021, the average growth in the national economy has been significantly lower than the growth in the decade before. It is for this reason that on average, most citizens are poorer than they were 10 years ago. Of course, some may be richer due to different explanations, but these are in a minority. In 2020, the economy contracted by 2.8%, meaning the production of goods and services became smaller than the levels attained in 2019. The contraction was on account of negative growth in manufacturing, wholesale and retail trade, construction and tourism sectors, largely due to supply chain disruptions and a fall in demand. Regarding the significant economic decline in 2020, two major factors were at play. The first was COVID-19 pandemic. The second factor, and perhaps more serious, was the blowing up of the debt crisis. Huge payments of external debt drained money out of the economy, leading to closure of many businesses due to absence of demand. You see this when you visit our shopping malls. The negative effects of COVID, both in Zambia and the rest of the world, are well understood. The effects included disruption of productive forces, disruption of trading arrangements, and of course also loss of human capital through deaths and hospitalization, as well as meeting unplanned heavy expenditures for COVID. It is noteworthy, though, that COVID merely added to two pre-existing serious economic problems in the country. The first is the consequence of the excessive borrowing undertaken by the previous government during the last 10 years they were in power. The second is the old age problem surrounding dependence on key mining sector, which in itself has not been managed well at all. Let me elaborate. National debt has grown uncontrollably since 2012. Year in, year out, the borrowing has been spiraling out of control, even when each year there were promises made to manage the national financial resources more prudently. The stock of central government external debts, as at the end of June 2021, stood at 12.91 billion US dollars. 12.91 billion US dollars. But as per convention, when we add the 1.57 billion of debt by parastatals that government had guaranteed to creditors, the total external debt as at the end of 2021, June 2021, stood at 14.48 billion, 14.48 billion, almost $15 billion. Madam Speaker, the debt that I have highlighted so far is just the external component. But there's also substantial domestic debt. In other words, debts owed to people within Zambia, including arrears to suppliers that the government must deal with. This, of course, makes the situation worse. Very soon, I shall be returning to the House to provide a comprehensive statement on the national debt and the measures being undertaken to deal with it, hopefully this week. The growth of external debt from less than 2 billion in 2011 to its current levels of 14.5 billion reflects one of the worst economic blunders during the last 10 years and has significantly contributed to the suffering we see today. The government was unable to hire key personnel, like teachers. The exchange rate was depreciating fast, and of course, inflation has been rising. Let me elaborate on one of the effects of excessive borrowing, namely inflation. It refers to the continuing rise in consumer goods and services. You will recall, Madam Speaker, that for many years, inflation rate was well below 10% per year. However, as at the end of August 2021, inflation was recorded at 24.4%, which is too high and way above the government's target then of 6 to 8%. With the increased inflation, lending rates at banks also increased to an average of 25.6% in August 2021. Other than inflation, this was on account of elevated levels of borrowing by the government. In the past decade, Madam Speaker, lending to the private sector has been shrinking in many years, as most of the credit was being taken up by the government. This must change because otherwise the economic growth that we are looking for will be elusive. For 2021, this year, preliminary estimates indicate that the economy grew by 0.05% in the first quarter, while growth registered 8.1% in the second quarter. Growth for the period, in other words, for the year, is now projected to grow at just above 2% for the whole year 2021, which of course remains well below what is required. This is on the background of general improvement in the economy of the world. It is also fair to add, Madam Speaker, that from mid-2021, a number of international initiatives to mitigate the effects of the COVID-19 pandemic permitted Zambia and other poor nations to suspend the servicing of some external debts. In other words, we are not servicing most of the debt as it falls due. This has allowed for more money to remain in the country and therefore was bound to improve the spending power of the citizens and therefore help to uplift the economy. Madam Speaker, the overriding economic objectives for 2022 and the medium term will be to transform our economy, expand it, and create employment opportunities. However, Madam Speaker, we must simultaneously deal with the problem of excessive national debt, without which it will be impossible to normalize the economy, let alone to bring about fundamental economic transformation for job and wealth creation. As I said earlier on, later this week, I shall return to give an update on the debt situation and what the government is doing to resolve it. In the meantime, let me provide an idea on how the UPND administration will address the issues of employment, especially for the youth, and economic well-being in general. Madam Speaker, we have an opportunity of a lifetime to transform the economy into one that grows strongly every year. From now onwards, the war cry will be economic growth, and economic growth. Everything we plan and talk about will be about strong expansion in production. And this House, Madam Speaker, has an important role in this war to get production up every year. Our debates, our speeches, our priorities in the budget all must focus on growth and everything else that it takes to realize that dream. It may be of expansion in output in the agricultural sector, in the manufacturing sector, tourist arrivals, goods transported, and so on and so forth. And of course, our mines must produce more, since copper prices are forecast to remain very high in the next 15 years. This is why, on many occasions, UPND has expressed the intention and plan to see copper production rise from less than 1 million tons now to 3 million tons in the next 10 years. And Madam Speaker, the money that this country will make from that expansion, given the high prices that are prevailing, this is money that is going to make everybody in the economy to smile. It is that expansion that will create jobs for the youth in the sectors concerned, as well as indirect ones in the related ones. Expansion will generate more money for everyone, including the owners of production, the employees, and even for the government through higher tax revenues. These aspirations, Madam Speaker, are realistic and achievable. We have seen the same transformation take place during our own lifetime in countries such as Mauritius, Malaysia, Thailand, and even in a country like Vietnam, which just a few decades ago, you recall, was bombed to dust during that long civil war that they had. Madam Speaker, these countries, 30 to 40 years ago, were poorer than Zambia. Today, they've advanced so much. It is hard to believe that the iPads that we use in this parliament are manufactured, they are manufactured in the same Vietnam that 30, 40 years ago was bombed to dust. Colleagues, we can do the same and liberate our nation from poverty and shame. Towards the month end, I shall be coming to this August House on the instruction of our President and government to present the 2022 budget. In that budget, the first steps in this ambitious transformation journey will start. Those will be the first steps, but they will be defining steps of a journey of no return to poverty, but one to prosperity for all. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning. Honorable Member for Lunte.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, I would like to thank the Honorable Minister of Finance and National Development for that very elaborate statement. Honorable Minister, in your statement you highlight that external debt stands at 12.9 billion United States dollars. This number, Honorable Minister, is consistent with the reports which were produced by your predecessor. For me, that indicates that there was no hiding of numbers, as was suggested by some opposition leaders then. Of course, you have escalated it to 14 billion plus. 14 billion plus when you add the guarantees that government has offered to the quasi-government institutions. When the president addressed the media last week, he said PF needed to be ashamed because it is PF which borrowed 20 plus billion. Today you are saying 14 billion. Which number between the two is correct? Thank you very much.
Thank you. The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I want to thank the Honorable Member for Lunte for that question. In my statements, I said very clearly that later this week, I'll come back to address specifically the issue of the debt, where I shall be able to make statements on the question that is raised. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Matero.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and congratulations, Minister, for your appointment and for the well-delivered statement. You mentioned that inflation is indeed a big problem in our economy, and not only Zambia, but the world, the global world, more so due to the COVID challenges, because it erodes disposable income. Honorable Minister, can you confirm that there's been a 20% that's been introduced on betting? As you know, most of our youths are now without jobs, relying on betting income to support their families. And with the inflation, if there is that 20% tax that government is getting, that means all they are earning, first they lose half the time, but when they win, all they are earning, 20% goes to government. Can you confirm that on Bola Bet there's 20% tax? And if it's there, are you willing to remove it? I thank you, Honorable Minister.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Honorable Member for that question. I think you agree with me, Madam Speaker, that the question is weird of the topic that we are discussing, but I'll be pleased to answer his question if he comes to explicitly state it in the other channels that are available to members of Parliament of this House. Madam Speaker, thank you.
The Honorable Leader of Opposition.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for this opportunity. And thank you, Honorable Minister, for that elaborate statement. Honorable Minister, the new Dawn government places economic transformation top on the agenda. Minister, now that you have all the information you needed in your possession, and in view of the campaign promises that were made, when do we expect to see a turnaround in the economy so that we see the implementation of some of those promises, like free education, reduction in inputs, among others? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I thank the Leader of the Opposition for that question. In the first instance, I think it's fair to say that we've seen some positive changes already taking place, in the sense that when this government took over, the exchange rate was certainly not where it is today. So that is a positive thing, and you can imagine how much relief this is giving to the people. If you walk around the shops, you can see that some of the commodities, the prices have already begun to drop, and I think CSO also did indicate that inflation has come down. As we move forward, Leader of Opposition, you'll see more. There are steps that we are taking to deal with the debt problem. And hopefully by the end of this year, there should be clarity on what is going to happen. And hopefully by next year, in the first quarter, we should have an IMF program in place, which is going to provide more confidence. You should see more money coming into the country to invest. Some of the things that we are going to do, I think that won't really cost money. Just a friendly environment for the economy, avoiding deportation of CEOs of companies for no strong reasons. Fighting with investors for entire 10 years instead of wooing them to come and establish companies in the countries. Within a short period of time, you see more money coming in the country, and you see that the well-being that people are used to, that will begin to come. But I think the goodness is when we hopefully resolve these issues in the mining sector, so that we stop quarreling and everybody focus on what? Mining. That's when you are going to see the big change take place in this economy. So, Honorable Member, just be patient a little bit. You yourself will be very happy as an individual. Thank you very much indeed.
Yeah. Thank you. The Honorable Member for Bwengwa.
Thank you so much, Honorable Madam Speaker. Minister, thank you for your statement. Madam Speaker, it's an undisputable fact that PF government was a government of illegalities. And, you know, I've been provoked on the issue of the debt the country is in today. I would like to be educated, now find out, sir, from you, Honorable Minister. Out of the total debt Zambia has acquired, what's the percentage of debt illegally acquired by the PF government and the percentage of debt legally acquired? Are you in a position to tell us, sir? Thank you so much.
The question was not clear. Maybe you can repeat it. You can ask again. Be specific. The question is not clear. Honorable
Thank you so much, Honorable Madam Speaker. My question to the Honorable Minister, Madam Speaker, is I would love to find out of the total debt the Zambian government has acquired, especially the PF government in the recent years. What's the total percentage of the debt acquired illegally by the PF and the total percentage of the debt acquired legally by the PF regime? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member for Wengwa. We are still going through the list of the debts because there are debts that are already in our books. We are still studying those, and if there's something in the direction of what you're asking, that we are going to see. But I also want to say that your point that is going to be passed in this House, which will give greater oversight power to Parliament in terms of asking to authorize a debt, whether Parliament will say yes or no. So the only thing that I can say is that the constitutionality of the debts in the last 10 years, of course, is open to debate because that law was not brought to this House to be passed. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Financials. I just wanted you to tell the nation, from your experience, copper prices plummeted, production plummeted, into 2017, then 2018, 2019, we got into COVID. And then
There is a point of order, Honorable.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. I enough that the rules of the House do not permit members' handbook. I'll get it for you. Just order that a member of Parliament's previous assignment or life should never be referred to. He's calling for the way the Honorable Minister performed his duty in 2010.
But you don't know the background.
Right? Then you will make the ruling.
Selling railway lines, and you become a member of Parliament. For the member to refer to what the House, I seek your serious ruling. Thank you.
Yeah.
Honorable members, the standing orders are very clear that when we are debating, we refer to, first of all, the question, the ministerial statement that has been made, very clear. We ask questions on those. Let's not refer to what
States, and I quote, a member who is of the opinion
tells you that there's something wrong. So or not, the message is very clear.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Yes, our Minister of Finance. Honorable Minister, when before we assumed office in 2011, the status of the public infrastructure was deplorable. Trying to finance a project which was called Formula One, and of course it was unavoidable that we could borrow. My question is a rider on the question from the Honorable MP for Lunte. You have stated on the floor of this House that you'll be bringing another statement House. Can you be categorical whether in the statement that you are going to bring, we shall expect to see different figures insofar as the external debt is concerned? Madam Speaker,
order, please, can we allow the Honorable Member?
You're in government now. You must
order. Honorable Member for Shiwangandu, just take your seat. Honorable members, let's have order and observe decorum. The questions have to be asked so that the people of Zambia can get a clarification, actually. Let's give him an opportunity to ask that question. With all those running commentaries, I can't appreciate what the question is.
In a few parts of the country. But the debt is for all of us. The debt is for all of us. But the infrastructure was concentrated in a few places of the country.
Yeah.
Madam Speaker, there is also the issue of sustainability of infrastructure financing. Because when you spend so much money on this Lusaka road, for example, to the point where now your budget is empty, your treasury is empty, because you have to service the debt. Now we are lucky because these donors and others have said, hold on. If they are not said so, by now maybe even paying salaries would be a problem. So the question then is, how sustainable was this manner of spending money on infrastructure? Because already some of this infrastructure, like the ring roads, is coming to pieces. Where were you going to get money, having exposed yourself everywhere? Where were you going to get money to repair these roads? And finally, Madam Speaker, finally, when you say you are proud about infrastructure that you finance, that is you, but not everybody. That is you, but not everybody. For people here who had high schools abandoned by PF for 10 years, at 60%, 10 years you abandon them. Then you are proud to point at a building of security apparatus, 11th floor. When you see so many office buildings, we borrowed money, colleagues, to build offices, while our children are learning in classrooms which look like crows for cattle. Are you proud of that? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Pika Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Mine is a straightforward question. May the Honorable Minister of Finance comment on the allegations that the Patriotic Front government printed extra money? May he state how much was printed and when that money arrived in the country?
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Madam Speaker, I think you agree with me again that that question is way out of the line of discussion that we are having this afternoon. So, Honorable Member, you are at liberty to put in a question, and then we are going to answer you. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Minister, for that good ministerial statement. Through you, Madam Speaker, the people of this country really want the economy to grow. That's the reason we are appealing to this UPND government to ensure that people of Chikwa, Tembwe, Chifunda need their maize to be bought so that they contribute to the GDP of this country through the FRI. Honorable Minister, can you clarify to this House and the people of this country as to whether you'll be in a position to bring on the floor of this House the debt that was contracted by the Patriotic Front government and the expenditure thereof? To which areas was this debt spent? For example, if you bring I'll give an example. If you billion euro the country and corresponding debt was used for the
question of Agriculture or to Minister of Finance, and then we'll be able to answer him. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Honorable Ministerial Statement. If the question is too wide and too general, it will not be possible for the Honorable Minister to answer that question. In that case, you are advised to put in a specific question, which then the Minister will be able to address. The Honorable Member for Bona.
I just also one of the UPND growth ideas of expansion of copper production from 1 million to 3 million. I just wanted the Minister to shed more light, because such a leap from 1 million of production. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, the MP for Bwana Mkubwa. About maybe 15 years ago, and at that point, I remember attending a World Bank sponsored conference in Kitwe. This is my role because the environment that was prevailing where we were did not permit or did not encourage those with money and ambition to look at Zambia and expand mining output. To shorten the long story, once the climate had been changed to be favorable, I remember the very first operation that Space Quantum made in Zambia was to recover copper from Bwana Mkubwa. Activity started. From there, they went on to open Kansanshi in Solwezi. From there, there have been other mines that opened, Lumana, and so forth. But I think the sad thing is that that momentum, that was it. And we saw copper production rising from about 300,000 tons to 800,000 tons. That drive that we saw ended during the rule of our colleagues in the PR. Those days, Bwana Mkubwa was revived. Under the PF government, even operating mines are going down, as we know. So, if we shift away from the practice of the PF colleagues in the last 10 years to create an environment that attracts rather than chases away money within the 10 years that I stated, because we are in discussion with these people, within the 10 years, that target will be attained. Look at Congo, DRC. 10 years ago, Congo was only producing half. Congo was producing only half of Zambia's output of copper. Today, DRC Congo produces nearly double of the copper in Zambia. That's why when we are crying here about the economic crisis, you don't hear those cries in Congo, DRC. So it is possible. And the good news is, I said, once this is done, you can imagine 3 million tons of copper. Your Zambia railways will be very busy, and you will come back to those days of the 60s, 70s that we knew. Tazara will be very busy. All these trucks will be very busy. Mechanics will be very busy. The economy is going to boom, just from copper alone, before we talk about other things. So, Honorable Member, let's work together. Let's make sure that this dream is realized. I thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Ron.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. And thank you for the Honorable Minister for that statement. Honorable Minister, you have said that today's production rate of copper in the country stands at 1 million, and we are looking at a projected figure of 3 million metric tons in the coming years. Honorable Minister, Baluba Mines is earmarked for closure in 2022, which is one of the contributing mines towards the 1 million metric tons that you've mentioned. Honorable Minister, what is the government doing to ensure that once Baluba mine is closed, and yet we have 28 shafts, which has a lifespan of 30 years, with a lot of million metric tons of copper ore there, what is government going to do to engage the investors to reopen this mine, which in turn will contribute to the promise that the new Dawn government made in creating more employment to the youths? And on top of that, Honorable Minister, what would you do as government to ensure that the jobs that are supposed to be done by our youths who were promised jobs are not taken over by the investors, employees who are coming to come and drive a water bowser, a grader, and so many simple jobs that can be done by Zambian? What is your comment on that, Honorable Minister? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, MP, for that question. It's a very important one. I think the answer is basically the same. From perpetual fights and quarrels with investors, which has led us to where we are today. Let's learn as a country to engage in a constructive manner. Those people have expectations. We also have expectations as the government, just like our people. But if we learn to engage and come to terms that we can agree upon, Baluba and other mines will be opened. If a mine cannot be opened because the ores are finished, it is finished. That's the way life is. 40, 50 years ago, the British were exporting cars. Do they export many cars today? They don't. But they didn't sit back and say, oh, because the Japanese now are selling cars faster than us, therefore we are doomed. No, you find something else to do. But the good news is that from the people that we've been speaking to, it looks like the resources are still plentiful in this country. Plentiful. All that is required is to have an atmosphere that allows money to come in the country. Mine. And as we do so, we are also going to encourage those old industries on the copper belt, how to add value to copper, how to provide inputs, not just for the mines in the country, but also across the border into the DRC. So as we present the budget, there will be some suggestions that we are going to make towards making Zambia once again a powerful mining country that it was. Of course, we also have suggestions for other sectors, agriculture, and so forth. So let's work together. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister of Finance. I just want to find out if the Minister did just a bit of survey or research to find out really what caused our friends seated on the left to have that appetite, insatiable appetite, ravenous appetite, unquenchable appetite, unappeasable appetite to borrow beyond even the ceiling. If it was borrowing for infrastructure, of course we have only seen the biggest humps in Lusaka, hiding the beauty of our infrastructure actually, because in other nations we have seen roads built on pillars so that we are able to see the other side of the road. If you did a bit of that research, can you assure the Zambian people that you are able to share just a bit of that research, so that those findings, so that we don't fall in the same traps that our friends have fallen into? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member for Solesist, for that very, I wish I had the power of oratory and choice of words like you. Very powerful indeed. I think the answer is basically what I said to the other colleagues from the other side. It will not be long before I'll be back here to address that question so we can take up the issues at that point in time. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lupososhi.
Madam Speaker, I thank you very much. Madam Speaker, I'm very worried about the inconsistencies in the New Dawn government about the foreign debt the PF government contracted. His Excellency the President, on Thursday last week at the press conference, confirmed that in excess of 20 billion foreign debt was contracted by the PF. $20 billion. The Minister of Finance has today come with verified information that the PF contracted $14.8 billion. Madam Speaker, may I know who is telling this nation the truth between His Excellency and the Minister of Finance in terms of foreign debt contracted by the PF?
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I've taken note of the question. When I'm back in the House, please remind me of that question, and then I'll be able to answer. No, I can't answer now.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Lukasha.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. First, also to acknowledge and thank the Minister for the statement. I just want to find out, Honorable Minister, since you said that the debt contracted by the previous government is unsustainable, how does government now intend to finance the future infrastructure projects? Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Obviously, this is actually a very interesting question, Madam Speaker. As I said, the way this debt was acquired, there was also biasness in terms of where it is applied in the country. If you recall, there was a time when people were saying, I think these roads were under, what did they call them? No. There was they were in schedules. There was a first part, second part, or something like that. And the ones which started, the ones where they started the program, by the time they finished, the country was already heavily indebted, meaning that the parts of the country where little or no intervention was made, it's now a challenge. It is now a challenge. It's like you go and milk a cow, you are sharing a cow, you are milking a cow, you are the first one to go. You finish all the milk, then you tell your friends, it's now your turn to go and what will come out? Indeed, it will be blood. So one part of the country is benefited, some other parts have not benefited. So we are going to find ways. I'm sorry I have no answer now, but as we deal with the issue of the debt, how it's structured, and this is what I'm going to talk about, maybe that way we'll be able to unlock. And going forward from that point, from points on, I think we have to look at ourselves and say, who benefited the last time, who did not, and how do we now have some form of equalization? Yeah. Let's be open with each other in fairness. Okay? In fairness. I think it is only right. The other time you heard somebody here saying, I've done very well in my constituency. I've done 17 schools, something like that, isn't it? Yeah. But the other part of the country, there's zero. Surely, can that be one Zambia, one nation? So let's work together. We are not there for retribution or something like that. We want to bring the country together. But as we do so, it's only fair and justifiable that we look and see who benefited the last time, who did not benefit. Can we equalize? Openly and transparently. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
Thank you. I will just allow 4 more questions because of looking at time. We have another ministerial statement. I'll call upon the Honorable Member for Zambezi East.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for giving me the opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the Honorable Minister of Finance.
Order, Honorable Member. There is a point of order from Honorable Member from Pambashe. He's not there. Oh, then Honorable Member for Zambezi East, please continue.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the Honorable Minister of Finance. Madam Speaker, through you, I would like to find out from the Honorable Minister of Finance, now that we have come to a state where we are, and it is clear that the debt trap in which we are is quite unsustainable. In the previous regime, we had the whole president, by then, President Edgar Lungu, come to this house and brag about restructuring of the debt. That was actually also followed with several statements from the then Minister of Finance on how they were going to engage some consultants to restructure the debt. What I want to find out is all that pronouncements and those flowery words which the previous regime used. Now that you have come into that office, how much progress have you found that this previous regime had made towards restructuring the debt, such that we could maybe ride on that to simply clean the, for lack of a better word, the confused situation? How much progress did we make from the previous regime, or it is completely nothing that they did, and we are in where we are because of that confusion they caused themselves in that regime? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Madam Speaker. Madam Speaker, it looks like there's so much interest on these issues of debt, and which I can't answer now because of the reason that I gave already before. All I can say that I look forward to answering all these questions when I come sometime later in the week. Thank you.
The Honorable Member for Mongo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Let me ask the Honorable Minister of Finance a question he can answer now. Honorable Minister, in light of the fiscal pressure facing the economy and the commitment of your ministry to manage this national debt crisis, which the failed PF government has put us through, can I find out from you, sir, whether the National Treasury has considered or is considering the implementation of debt rules which require the government to place a growth ceiling on consolidated government debt? I submit. Thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
The short answer is yes, Madam Speaker. And I think this is one of the problems that was there before. The Treasury must have a goalkeeper, somebody who says, this is all there is. And if that is missing, especially when this ministry can borrow, that ministry can borrow, that is chaos. But let me reserve all those details for later in the week. Thank you.
Honorable Member for Nalolo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for according me this opportunity to ask a follow-up question. Thank you to the Minister of Finance for that elaborate presentation. I must say, coming from a constituency without a single road, it is very touching to listen to such unsustainable levels of debt. Madam Speaker, my question to the Honorable Minister of Finance is, he mentioned of negative growth in manufacturing and in the retail trade industry. Now, my question is, does the Ministry of Finance in the new Dawn government, or is the Ministry of Finance in the new Dawn government improving mechanisms on taxation on the informal sector? Just to clarify, Honorable Minister, I say this or ask this because the informal sector constitutes over 80% of the labor force in this country. Obviously, it is expected that there are revenue leakages. For example, trade via the Kasumbalesa border. What mechanisms is the ministry putting in place to close down on revenue leakages in the informal sector? And since taxation in the informal sector was introduced in the year 2004, what sort of position are we at as of today? I submit. Thank you very much.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
I thank you, Madam Speaker, and I wish to thank the Honorable Member for Nalolo for that question. And indeed, I sympathize with him that in spite of the huge debt mountain, his constituency, just like mine, not even a gravel road. So we need to address those imbalances. Regarding the tax on the informal sector, it is indeed a challenge. It is indeed a challenge, but there are certain taxes where even if you are in the formal sector, it is hard to, or almost impossible to avoid it. For example, the tax on telephones, even if you are in the formal sector, you have no choice, you have to pay. So the challenge is always how do you calibrate these taxes in such a way that you can capture even people in the informal sector without incurring huge expenses. Okay, there's no point trying to spend 20 kwacha to collect a tax of 10 kwacha. It doesn't make sense. I believe that with expanding IT, gradually we should be seeing main taxes, even catching those who are in the informal sector. Madam Speaker, thank you.
Thank you. The last question will be from the Honorable Member for Lukulu East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker. Honorable Minister, sometime last year or even the year before, the previous regime engaged a consultant by the name of Lazard to help it advise by way of restructuring or indeed other advisory services. Sir, we are still grappling with a choking debt. Would you confirm that in fact that amount of money which was paid, 5 million, was a waste of taxpayers' money? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Finance and National Planning.
Once again, Madam Speaker, I want to thank Honorable Dr. Kalila, MP for Lukulu East, for that important question, which I'm afraid I cannot answer now because I'll be addressing it later. Just to allow me to prepare more thoroughly on these issues of debt, So if you can remember to recast the question sometime later this week. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. Honorable members have also permitted the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development to make a ministerial statement. The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Let me thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to render a ministerial statement. Madam Speaker, Your Honor, the Vice President and Leader of Government Business, dear members of Parliament, I wish to inform the House this afternoon that the Treasury has released a total of 249,600,000 Constituency Development Fund, in short referred to as CDF, which is the amount in the 2021. I therefore wish to remind honorable members of this august House a few critical issues regarding the Constituency Development Fund. Firstly, I wish to state that CDF is a fund that is established by the Constitution of Zambia under Article 162. Additionally, the CDF Act number 11 of 2018 was enacted to provide the management, disbursement, utilization, and accountability of the Constituency Development Fund established under the Constitution. Constituencies and provide for the composition and functions and provide for matters that are connected with or incidental to the subject above, CDF. The CDF is meant to be distributed to all the 156 constituencies of the country. The fund is budgeted for under the Ministry of Local Government and Rural Development and is disbursed to the constituencies as and when the Treasury releases it. Madam Speaker, the allocation of the CDF to the 156 constituencies is 1.6 million kwachas. I wish to inform the House that the Ministry has released the funds accordingly. Given the foregoing background, Madam Speaker, I wish to remind the honorable members of Parliament on the need to strictly adhere and follow the guidelines in the utilization of the CDF. Madam Speaker, in reminding the members of the House, and given that the House has a number of very new, brand new members due to the high rate of turnover after 5 years, I thought it was very prudent to highlight a few salient issues in the Act that will help members of Parliament to manage this fund. While I urge the members to take time to study and understand the guidelines, the contents of the CDF Act, number 11 of 2018, in line with Section 3 of the Act, Madam Speaker, the management, disbursement, and utilization of the fund shall be done in accordance with the following guiding principles. 1. Transparency. 2. Accountability. And 3. Equity. These principles do not apply to the central government and the stakeholders involved in the disbursement of funds, but also in the implementation of the CDF projects, and should be observed strictly as such. Madam Speaker, as members of Parliament, we may also be interested in the provisions of section number 5 of the Act, which highlights the establishment of the Constituency Development Fund Committee in each constituency. The membership of the committee consists of the following part-time members as appointed by the minister. This one speaking here right now. A. 2 community representatives nominated by members of parliament from the constituency. B, or 2. 3 councillors in the constituency, 2 of whom must be elected from the councillors among themselves, and 1 who will be nominated by the members of parliament in each constituency. C, 1 representative of a chief where a constituency has 1 chief, or 2 representatives from the chiefs where the constituency has 2 or more chiefs nominated by those chiefs from within the constituency. D, representative of the director responsible for the planning department of the local authority. E, the representative of the director responsible for works or engineering services at the local authority. F, the representative of a civil society organization operating within the constituency and nominated by the member of parliament. G, a representative of a religious organization in the constituency nominated by member of parliament. H, the member of parliament from the constituency. I, and not the least, a representative of the director responsible for finance in the local authority in which the constituency is located. At 3, the members of the committee shall elect a chairperson and a vice chairperson, Madam Speaker, from among themselves, except that members referred to in B, D, E, H, and I, who are predominantly employees of the council, do not qualify for the election of chairman or chairperson. Madam Speaker, my appeal to the August House is that honorable members of parliament have an onerous task to ensure that implementation is earmarked in the earmarked projects commences as quickly as possible, because it is the cry of the larger citizenry of the country that development should be hastened in all areas. This is now a fulfillment of what the government under the leadership of Mr. Hakainde Hichilema pledged, that there will be equitable distribution and timely distribution of this fund. Congratulations, Honorable Minister of Finance, for servicing all the constituencies, contrary to the way it was in the past, where they were the constituency government fund were distributed in tranches.
Wrongly.
There is absolutely no need to retain these funds in the bank accounts because the challenges are many.
Yeah.
I would also like to state to honorable members of parliament, especially those who are brand new, that it is worth noting that every end of the finishing line is the beginning of a new race, and you will definitely find in your constituencies some projects that your predecessor had not completed. It is only advisable that you don't abandon those constituency projects and finish them before you embark on other projects. In conclusion, Madam Speaker, allow me to reiterate that my ministry stands very ready to ensure that the CDF release is used on the intended purposes. We stand by the ministry, we stand by all of you, honorable members of parliament, to address the challenges that the management of the CDF fund has so far experienced. And going by the guidelines that I've given, one of the major setbacks, one of the major difficulties that the councils have been facing has been members of parliament weighing down on the staff against the guidelines and interfere with the rules that are set. I would like to put a caution to all of you friends, brothers, that if you abrogate these particular provisions of the rule book, the Anti-Corruption Commission, the Drug Enforcement Commission, and all the police may just visit you at your doorstep. So I'm encouraging you to mark my lips that read the rule book. If you do not have the guidelines, please quickly indicate. Soft copies will be sent to yourselves, and if possible, also hard copies, so that you familiarize yourselves with the rules and regulations that guide the Constituency Development Fund and the utilization thereof. Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity, and I'm sure that the statement is so clear that it may not attract any follow-up questions. I thank you.
Thank you. Honorable members are now free to ask questions on points of clarification on the ministerial statement given by the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. Honorable Member for Chilubi.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. I would like to ask the Minister, because his concern is mainly to deal with continuation of projects of many other. Maybe the Minister may need to know that from my little experience, some of the bottlenecks in terms of implementing projects come through the window of the Council itself, because the Council happens to be an implementing agent in this case. The committee that he has just read, which is backed by an Act of Parliament, mainly sits to choose and select based on what the community has submitted. And the implementation mainly is in the ball of the Council. Based on that one, I would like to ask how his ministry will be dealing with different councils to make sure that projects are implemented in that line. Then another question that I wanted to find out from...
Honorable Member, just one question, please. The Honorable Minister for Local Government and Rural Development.
It is true, Madam Speaker, the concern of the Minister, and I want to thank him for bringing this matter to light, that the Council operations, the implementing agencies, many times remain a bottleneck or a stumbling block to the expedient ways of completing these projects. This has been primarily because of the culture that our Council officers have adopted. In terms of procurement, they have normally waited for unnecessarily long in their tender processes in order to arrive at the right price for the product that they intend to bring to the community. With the coming of this new government, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chilubi, it has been completely explicit by the head of state that we are going to run our affairs based on three principles. One, being mindful of the cost of service or goods. Two, timely delivery. Three, quality delivery. So it is up to you, as a Member of Parliament, to make sure that everybody does their 8-hour work by making sure that if a tender committee, for instance, sits and they determine which contractors, which suppliers they are going to contract, let it happen the very next day, so that there's no one sleeping on the job. And I'm glad to tell you that if you take that attitude to supervise the Council, don't be shy to do so. You will see that delivery will be timely, you will deliver quality, and no one will look behind their shoulder, because the citizens are going to benefit from this fund. Thank you, sir. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Momba.
Madam Speaker, thank you very much. And the Honorable Minister, thank you for that statement. My question in part was the same as that of the Honorable Member of Parliament for Chilubi. And the Honorable Minister, I think the frustration has been emanating from the fact that these projects, once they are approved and procurement is done, we have faced cases whereby it takes, even in some cases, over a year, just maybe, for example, to drill a borehole. And now I've heard you have given us some bit of power to ensure that in such do not happen. But still, my question, Honorable Minister, to you is, is it possible at a council level to institute maybe some punitive measures to such officers whereby we find deliberately they are sitting on such kind of projects so that we see the delivery of services to our people being enhanced? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and the Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank the Member of Parliament for Momba for a question that is similar to the Member of Parliament for Chiluvi regarding the timely delivery of these services to our people. I would like to state that when I was in the opposition myself, I was a victim to this kind of inertia by the council officers, where they deliberately go and procure invoices that are way above the cost price of the commodity you just spoke about, namely the borehole, where they will come and say, you cannot procure a borehole for 22,000 kwacha because according to government standards, you are supposed to have auxiliary costs such as pumping tests, such as the quality of the water, such as this, such as that. Now, I was a victim of 15 boreholes delaying for 1 year. And I put my foot down, Madam Speaker, and spoke to an erstwhile old friend, MP for Mambilima, who was then Minister of Water and Sanitation, where I said to Honorable Wanchinga, sir, is it true that in government the borehole is 65,000 kwacha when we can procure it for so much? Because they're telling me there are all these, standards that we have to bear with. Madam, I want the MP to understand that we have done a market survey based on private procurement of boreholes, which is the example he used, and an average 50-meter borehole or cast with a hand pump will cost in the region of 28,000 kwacha. If there's no water and they hit a dry borehole, the standard cost is 7,000 kwacha. All those figures are known and they are known widely. The answer to this, Honorable Member of Parliament for Momba, is that it is up to you to be proactive, to ensure that no one sits on these processes deliberately in order to create a crisis and procure water, which is a very essential commodity for our people, with delay. So it is you, this Constituency Development Fund, by the way, Honorable Member, through the Speaker, is the only fund that an MP has control over to a certain extent. And because that is the case, you must superintend over its utilization, abiding by the guidelines, and also being timely. Like I said in my response to the Member of Parliament for Chiluvi, there shall be no reason why another day will pass when all decisions have been made. Delivery of services and goods must be done timely and instantaneously. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Member for Zambezi East.
Thank you very much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity to ask a follow-up question to the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. Madam Speaker, with your permission and indulgence, I'd like to get a clarification from the Honorable Minister. And my line of questioning will more or less be similar to the previous members that asked the question. There is, Honorable Minister, you agree with me that structure follows strategy. We have a strategy to make sure that these projects are implemented quickly and the like, and now there is even quick disbursement of these funds. And we have identified that the biggest bottleneck we have is the current crop of staff in these councils. And it is the same in almost every constituency, emanating from the way the PF did things of employing cadres into these offices. Now that we have identified this as the most critical problem, what communication have you sent out there to all councils countrywide if they did not implement these projects according to the way we envisage them to be implemented? Especially the fact that these people do not fall directly under our supervision. They are under your supervision and your staff in that structure. So what have you done in terms of sending out the message there from your office in terms of a circular or communique that will make them do the work according to the way we want them to work? I thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you for that very important question from the Honorable Member of Parliament for Zambezi East. Honorable Member of Parliament for Zambezi East, it is a fact that this fund, and I just said it a minute ago, is the only fund that the MP, the Member of Parliament, superintends upon. There is no harm whatsoever to make sure that these the council workers are strictly supervised in order for them to change their attitudes towards delaying and procrastinating to get these processes and deliveries to our people is done. But because you've asked this question, I think it's only fair for me to assure you that we will dart out a circular to all the councils to remind them about the nature of urgency that we need our people to benefit from this fund. And also to indicate that should there be reason why a staff member will willfully and willingly want to delay the processes of servicing our people, the appropriate penalties will be, or sanctions will be awarded to them. That circular will be done. Thank you very much, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kalabo Central.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and let me thank the Minister over the good news of the CDF release. However, Honorable Minister, like others have alluded to, the problem also is lack of qualified skilled labor. You'd find that the position of the director is not filled. So, the process of procurement is delayed, regardless of other officers being available. So, what is the position of the ministry over the deployment of the relevant skilled staff in very important positions like that of the director? Thank you, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister, Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, let me thank the Honorable Member again for Kalabo Central for a very, very important question, which is touching on competences of the people we have in our offices in order to deliver the services that our people need. Madam Speaker, the responsibility of placement of staff in the local authority is the responsibility of the Local Government Service Commission. We will ensure that the Local Government Service Commission is depoliticized as much as we can. As a matter of fact, I'm short of using the word, we are going to exercise it to remove people who are engaged based on political patronage as the case has been in the Local Government Service Commission, as the case has been in our erstwhile leaders, the PF, who in their manifesto were very, very clear and explicit that they are only going to employ people in positions that are PF believers and members. The case that we have in the Local Government Service Commission, as you know, Madam Speaker, currently we have no chairperson. And when we try to follow the statute, the act that provides for leeway to get someone to act in the position of a chairperson, we landed ourselves in a typical cadre. That particular attempt to follow the law blew up in our faces, where those who knew the staff in the Local Government Service Commission exposed the fact that the commission was tainted with politicians. It is true, as the case has been in all the local authorities, from my little experience, starting from the most basic position of firemen, they are called firemen, those who work in the fire brigade, that PF used that as a conduit to employ only their cadres. And so we have a big job, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kalabo, to ensure that we professionalize the Local Government Service Commission, which is responsible for the placement of employees in all the councils, without having to seem to be victimizing anyone. And I'm sure, Madam Speaker, you appreciate that it's a tough job, because the way you cannot judge a book by its cover. But we all know now, principally, that the Service Commission, the councils, have been filled with people who have less qualifications as gratification for belonging. We will not victimize anyone and remove them from their source of livelihood. But clearly, I must state here, in order to remedy this, all those, and I mean all, who we will prove are politicians, active politicians, such as the example I've given, we will find a way to get them out so that we can professionalize the commission, and the outputs thereof, I can assure you, will bring out a quality delivery service of goods to our people. But we have to be extremely careful, and that's why His Excellency President Hakainde Hichilema, the Republican President, 7th one of this republic, even if he has been blamed for acting slowly to make the changes, his desired changes, speaking to him through our cabinet, he has been very clear that he will not rush, because there may be collateral damage on even innocent people who are in these government jobs. Because every citizen deserves to get a government job. And so we have to tread carefully as we try to reform the employing agency for the local authorities. Madam Speaker, I thank you.
The Honourable Member for Chama South.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honourable Minister, for that wonderful statement, and congratulations. This is how it should be. You have our maximum support as a new Dawn government if you actually go on such trajectory. That's how it should be. My question, Honourable Minister, is since the new Dawn government has promised total transformation of our communities, particularly those of us who represent the rural areas, is your government considering increasing this CDF fund? Because it's a fund that has a really impact on our people in the constituencies. Is your government, or our new Dawn government,
considering increasing this fund, probably above 10 million kwacha per constituency. Are there such possibilities in this year or next year's budget? I submit, Madam Speaker.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Chama. At the expense of trading on the domain of the Minister of Finance, because this is clearly his area, I would like to state the following. It has been our belief as UPND that we are going to implement the full decentralization process that our S12 brothers and sisters in PF had put on the shelf for a very, very long time. And in implementing the decentralization process, it goes without saying that the devolution will entail that money, resources, are going to come down from the center here in Lusaka to the districts. So yes, I can confirm that there will be an increase, but the naming of the figure, I would like to leave it to the Minister of Finance, who in not so distant a future, maybe in a week or two's time, is going to come and give you that figure which you are looking for. And I can assure you, dear brother and friend, that maybe that will be the day you will leave PF to join us, because there will be a change in everything.
The Honorable Member for Solwezi East.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving me another chance to ask a question to the Honorable Minister for Local Government. Honorable Member for Zambezi East alluded to the fact that the structures are very important in the administering of the CDF fund. There are instances where the composition of the CDF committee or committees were not fairly done, comprising some PF cadres with that insatiable appetite to pocket money. Now, in this case, I know of the rural areas, the composition were influenced by our friends on the left. Now, the mandate of an MP is to
On a point of order, Madam Speaker.
There is a point.
But I know that he attended the orientation level where we start fellow UPND MP. Is in order, Madam Speaker, to insinuate that in his constituency
Thank you. The Honorable Member from Solwezi East will stick to facts when you're debating and also be specific to ask questions. Don't debate your question. Be specific, answer the question, and it will be answered. Proceed.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. The facts are there. I'd like to find out if the mandate of the Member of Parliament still stands according to the regulation that he read out to reconstitute the CDF committee. If we are given that mandate, I want it to go clear to the members out there that the MP is going to reconstitute in accordance with the regulation.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, I want to thank you for the opportunity again and also thank the colleague from Shindamo for his question. The essence of this ministerial statement today was to do precisely what he's asking for. Please read the guidelines. This is a brand new parliament, and so you are at liberty to go as quickly as possible to form these committees. Once you form these committees, ensure that they are sent to the ministry as quickly as possible for scrutinization and approval. That's the way it works. And we will do that for you like lightning. We will make sure that as soon as your documents come to the ministry, we approve them so that you can start spending this money. Let me take advantage of this question because the honorable member spoke about putting money in people's pockets. This statement also, Madam, served as a caution, because to be forewarned is to be forearmed. That if you have long fingers, because the way the act is couched, it does not permit the MP to actually touch these funds, but you have control over how the utilization should be. But should your fingers extend to get to come into contact with these funds, you'll be doing it at your own peril. Thank you.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Kankoyo.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, for giving this opportunity. I just want to find out from the Honorable Minister for Local Government whether it's true to the fact that this is the first time a new government has managed to pay the CDF to other constituencies, even before they present their budget within the 14 days. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam, I can confirm that this is not the first time that CDF has been disbursed all in one shot. There has been years in the past where CDF has been disbursed in tranches, and there have been times in the past where CDF has been disbursed in piecemeals. Let me take advantage of this question to remind members that this CDF that is coming into your accounts is CDF for 2021. And we have just a couple of weeks before we begin the new fiscal year. It therefore goes without saying that our erstwhile friends in PF had not given priority to this funding. And so those members who lost elections, and this is the reason why in my submission I made a plea to honorable colleagues here that if there are projects that were left hanging by those who failed to make it back here via the election, please make sure that you complete those, even if they are not your priority. This is a case where I believe in our party that is in government today, we will plead to the Minister of Finance that CDF is given priority so that you have a whole year, whole fiscal year to plan your things right. I can assure you that by the time he reads the speech for the budget 2022, all this money would not have been touched because there are processes to follow, including constituting of these committees that I read in my statement. Thank you, Madam Speaker.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Shiwangandu.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for allowing me a chance to pose a question to the Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development. Let me start by commending you for bringing that statement, Honorable Minister. And indeed, this has been a very difficult year, but also a clear demonstration that as your government didn't inherit empty coffers, because to get these funds, there must have been something in the coffers. Honorable Minister, we are going to the rain season. When do we expect these funds to hit the accounts? As you indicated that it has already been dispersed from the finance, and we expect it to be in the constituents' coffers. When do we expect this to happen? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you very much, Honorable Member of Parliament for Shiwangandu. I would like to confirm to you that the funds had been sitting on our account for nearly 10 days now. The funds were paid in 2 installments. The first installment was less 10 million kwacha only, which 10 million kwacha would represent plus or minus 4 constituencies. And after conferring with the Ministry of Finance, we chose to hold on to the money until everything was all put together. But I want you to know that I spoke to my staff at the time when they explained to me that there will be about 4 or so constituencies that are short. I said, let's go ahead, leave Mazabuka out, leave Liua out, leave Monze out, so that members can start working. But fortunately, the very next day, the 10 million was given, and now I can confirm to you that the banks have been instructed, and without wanting to be cited, I think that the monies should be either on your account today or in the next few days to come, but before Friday. But if you talk to your council secretaries and town clerks, depending on which bank you are in, I can confirm to you that the money may be in your account. I thank you very much, Madam.
Yeah. The Honorable Member for Kasama.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you to the Minister of Local Government. I wish to find out, CDF across the board is 1.6 million. Now, looking at some of our constituencies, when you just look at one ward, a ward in a constituency like Kasama Central is equal to a constituency in its own right. Would it be possible, Honorable Minister, that you'd consider not having CDF across the board, but to have, according to geographical areas of constituencies and other factors that you would look at? So I wish to ask that question. I thank you.
The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Thank you, Madam Speaker, and thank you, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kasama Central. I wish it was left up to me to make those decisions, because here you are bringing the issues of equity and the levels of development. That clearly Lusaka is much more developed than Kasama or Mporokoso or Magoe, and therefore, if you look at issues of equity, maybe your argument will then hold water. I want to let you know through the Honorable Madam Speaker that this particular fund is ring-fenced in a law. And this is the House that makes the laws. It's ring-fenced in the CDF Act, which at the time when the law was crafted, it provided that each constituency will get exactly the same amount of money. And so is the case with the Local Authority Equalization Fund. It is up to this House to make those changes, because I haven't got what it takes within my terms of reference to say Zambezi or Chavuma, because it's far and it's big and it's less developed than Mazabuka, therefore they should get more money than the others. I think it's our collective duty as lawmakers to move an amendment to the law to provide for that. Many people have visited that area. I want to let you know, Honorable Member of Parliament for Kasama, and for those who have been here a little longer, and so far we thought that if it's not broken, do not fix it. It's working quite okay, because right now, most of the CDF, in most of our areas, we use it for the most basic needs, such as water, health facilities, to supplement government effort. Your worry may be a thing of the past soon, as I said in my earlier statement, that His Excellency, President Hakainde Hichilema, is committed, the Commander-in-Chief of Armed Forces, is committed to implement the decentralization process, where, in his own words, has said, I want to remove all money from Lusaka and take it into the provinces and into the districts, into the constituencies, into the wards. That's what the new Dawn President vision is for now. So I'm sure that that question will be answered by the time we do the implementation of the decentralization process. I thank you, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity.
Thank you. The Honorable Member for Mangango.
Thank you so much, Madam Speaker, for the opportunity that is accorded to me to ask a question to the Honorable Minister. I'd like to find out from the Honorable Minister of Local Government that there are some chiefs that have got more than one constituency in their chiefdom. Should they have more than one representative in each constituency or not, or the same representative to represent the chief in both in all the constituencies? The other thing I'd like to find out from
only one question. Only one question, Honorable Member. The Honorable Minister of Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam, in my submission, I made it extremely clear. I got an extract from the guidelines that addresses the very issue that the Honorable Member of Parliament for Mangango has brought before me now. And I'll repeat what I read. I said, one representative of a chief where a constituency has one chief, or two representatives of the chiefs where the constituency has two or more chiefs to be nominated by those chiefs within the constituency. In short, this says if, for instance, in the case, to give you a practical example, the constituency that I represent, Mazabuka, the chief Naluama is sitting with subjects in both Chikankata and Mazabuka constituencies. So he nominates one representative to sit in the Mazabuka Council and another representative to sit in the Chikankata Council. I hope that answers your question, Honorable Member of Parliament.
The Honorable Member for Bwana Mukubwa.
Thank you, Madam Speaker. Thank you, Minister for Local Government and Rural Development, for the well-articulated speech, especially on CDF. I think it's also important that we have those guidelines, but my question is on, you've earlier said that there's issue of decentralization of the CDF funds, and also there are some issues to increase the CDF fund. Please just highlight, is the increase going to be in the coming allocation, or what are the plans with the new Dawn government? I thank you.
The Honorable Minister for Local Government and Rural Development.
Madam Speaker, let me thank the MP for Bwana Mukubwa for his question. For avoidance of doubt, I want us to all know that this budget that the Minister of Finance is presenting in a few days' time is a budget that was prepared by after we took over government from PF. The minister looked at what PF had prepared and made some minimal adjustments in order to suit our aspirations as a party. So the CDF for this year remains at 1.6. Give the minister a chance to present his budget speech for next year. It's just in a few days' time, and that's why he was making a plea for you to be just slightly patient. Once he comes to present the budget for 2022, you can then ask those questions to say your indication for decentralization, not only of the CDF, but it is a decentralization of everything. And I encourage you members to read as much as you can on the decentralization, maybe losing decision-making power, but our president has...
As the term is 16...
Right, business has been suspended for 20 minutes until 17 hours, and on the floor of the House is a minister ratification to a ministerial statement that he presented, and this is an update on the release of the 2021 CDF. And
Treasury has released 249,600,000 kwacha constituency development funds, and the funds are actually meant to be distributed to 156 constituencies countrywide, and the CDF to the 156 constituencies is 1.6 million kwacha. The Minister of Local Government and Rural Development urged members of Parliament to observe transparency, accountability and equity in the implementation of the funds.
And earlier we had a ministerial statement that was presented by the Minister of Finance and National Planning, and this was on the state of the economy, but we'll get to these details on the other side.
All right, just about now we have a short documentary on the NGOCC and the CSUZ engagement meeting with Madam Speaker